just include patients here at home. It extended to the brave men and women of our armed forces.
I think that we forget that the people that were prepared to take on these roles oftentimes came from the military. Nurses were coming out of the military with extensive critical care skills and critical thinking skills and opportunities that they just couldn't apply because at that point nursing wasn't recognized as an advanced practice opportunity.
NP ranks were growing at home. New NP specialties were arising, and they were working collaboratively with physicians in a variety of new sites and with new populations. The original NP certificate programs taught by physicians were now evolving as well. By the mid-70s, the federal government began funding these programs and the master's level curriculum flourished, and for the first time, NPs were actually teaching NPs. The super nurses were on the move, but due to the very work they did, a sense of isolation was inevitable.
There was a sense of isolation. There weren't a lot of us out there. We were very scattered all over the country. And as practice was evolving, the regulations weren't yet evolving with it. And so there was a real sense of needing to do more connecting and see what all was happening and try to move things forward.
You can be in the most densely populated urban area and still feel very isolated. So it's not just the rural NP that can have that problem.
There were so few of us that we couldn't find each other at first. And I can remember the students coming to me and saying we need to have an organization, something so that we can meet and talk to each other because it was very lonely out there.
Despite the isolation inherent in the role, as the 70s came to a close, NPs were benefiting from continuing education opportunities, certification examinations, and moves toward standardization of outcomes and curriculum. At the start of the 80s, between 15,000 and 20,000 NPs were practicing, firmly establishing them as primary health care providers. Still, some circles continued to question the relevance and durability of the NP role. However, by 1984, there were approximately 24,000 practicing NPs and several very active groups representing different specialties. But no single group existed that could represent all NPs on a national scale.
There had been a growing sense that the profession was growing, the nurse practitioner discipline needed to have much more organizational support than what existed at the current time. And it needed to be broad. It needed to be for all specialties of NPs. And really looking at the scopes of regulation, the support, the educational needs, all the things that a national professional organization does needed to be there for this profession across the board.
A group of like-minded NPs with diverse specialties and geographies formed a steering committee to study the need for and feasibility of a national organization. In 1985, members of the steering committee convened at the Pennsylvania farmhouse of NP Jan Towers, and under an apple tree drafted bylaws for a national NP organization. The American Academy of Nurse Practitioners was born.
There was no group that really was centering in on looking at nurse practitioners as a whole, and we felt we did not have a spokesperson, and we were getting large enough that there were many issues that we were concerned about and felt we needed to have more cohesion in relation to nurse practitioners. And so there was sort of a hue and cry throughout the nurse practitioner community to do something, and we had a summit in Chicago at that time that looked at what to do, and an organization of organizations was formed that brought all these organizations together, but we still didn't have an organization that dealt with nurse practitioners regardless of specialty. There was consternation in relation to forming this new group, and I remember that one of the comments that was made was, you know, let them go ahead and form their group. If it's needed, it will grow, and if it's not needed, it will die. And it grew.
AANP opened operations in Lowell, Massachusetts, and in the first 5 years would reach a membership of 1,350, hold its first national conference in Philadelphia, create the Journal of the AANP, and compile the nation's only comprehensive database of NPs. It was also during this time that AANP's legislative efforts hit the ground running. AANP quickly engaged in the many battles that have helped NPs evolve the nation's healthcare system, from Capitol Hill all the way down to the underserved communities everywhere that NPs call home.
I was reminded a long time ago that regulation and legislative change follows practice, not the other way around. So the practice had evolved to a point that regulatory and legislative changes had to happen.
And I remember saying, you know, what do we need to do to get nurse practitioners included in this legislation? And the answer was, you need to have somebody on the Hill. So we put somebody on the Hill.
That somebody, it turns out, was Jan Towers. And to this day, her work, the work of the AANP lobbyist, and the Health Policy Office benefits the growing role of NPs everywhere. As the Berlin Wall fell at the end of the 80s, AANP was actively tearing down its own legislative walls while building important political relationships that benefit all NPs to this day. In 1993, AANP formed the National Certification Program as a separately incorporated entity, offering clinically focused and competency-based certification exams for adult and family NPs. 2 years later, AANP initiated the Corporate Advisory Council as a way of enhancing communications with healthcare industry leaders.
What I think was a turning point for all of us in the profession was in the early 90s when the numbers of nurse practitioners increased dramatically.
It was during this time period that AANP made Austin, Texas its permanent home, and membership and conference attendance blossomed. In 1998, the AANP Foundation was formed as a separately incorporated organization.
Every person that receives a scholarship or a grant has been very thankful and has been very appreciative of the help. We constantly get reports that I would not have been able to finish my program if it hadn't been for this. You know, I had to take off work because I'm a single parent. I'm trying to finish my master's degree because my life's goal is to be a nurse practitioner. This helped me get through the program. Those are the types of responses we get.
In the year 2000, the Fellows of the American Academy of Nurse Practitioners program was established to recognize NP leaders who have made outstanding contributions to healthcare practice, research, education, or policy, and to facilitate leadership in the NP discipline. While the Fellows of AANP certainly represent the very best that NPs have to offer, it is important to remember that all NPs play a crucial role in bringing up the next generation through mentoring.
The mentors I've had as a nurse practitioner student have been amazing. They've challenged me to push myself further, and they've encouraged me the entire time I've been doing this. And then at the same time encouraging me, you are on the right path, you are going the right way. Keep learning, keep going, keep doing.
Several of them have been my personal providers, and I've been impressed by their expertise. And it just made me want that much more to become a nurse practitioner.
Nurses should go for it. I think that they should find it within themselves, that they do have the capability, they do have the knowledge base, they do have the essentials to go after greater goals and dreams, and that they are a vital part of the care team for patients.
By 2001, there were over 300 NP programs teaching, mentoring, and developing the next generation of NPs. There were also over 800 NP specialty tracks helping prepare NPs for an ever-expanding array of ways to serve their patients. The global reach of American NPs has continued to expand in this decade. Whether in the war-torn regions of the Middle East or in developing countries where the need is great, NPs are there to promote health and healing. And NPs continue to flourish at home by developing innovative ways to partner with underserved populations. The award-winning Queen Street Clinic in Alexandria, Virginia, was opened in 2001 by NP Ann Boston Parrish. Her story, which involves a second mortgage, in-kind donations, and lots of community